I'm going to change it over. Hey everyone, it is me, Wendy V, and I am live. We are here live today on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And this is one of the lives that I love to do every once in a while where I'm actually talking about a topic. So if you want to hear the topic, hang out on Instagram. If you want to see the overlays and join the conversation, join me somewhere where I can actually say hi to you. Hey, what's up, Gabe? How are you? I'm excited to see you there on Instagram. If anybody's here on LinkedIn or on Facebook, oh, Elena's here. Exciting. Okay, so whoever is here, let me know. I want to make sure I know who's joining the live and that I can actually answer your questions. So if you want to see the overlays and things, come on to one of the other platforms. If you just want to hang out and listen to me talk about random stuff, happy to have you on Instagram. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. Now, I wanted to talk about the entrepreneur switch from being an employee to being a boss. And you can always think about this in a lot of different ways. So the conversation today, I laid out very particularly for a half hour, but we might go over because there's a lot to talk about. So depending on where you're at, I want to see, whatever your questions are, you can drop them anywhere. Thank you, Ruby. Appreciate you. I got my red lipstick on. So I'm excited that people are here on LinkedIn. People are here on, hey, Elena's everywhere. She's over here on LinkedIn. She's over here on Instagram. I don't know where to look for you. So I'm just going to talk in the middle of the two. But I'm going to pull up the first set of overlays and bring our conversation to a start. And I'm excited to be here. This is the first live for the Social Impact Level Up community of the year. And so 2022, we did a bunch of lives in November, and we were talking all about your mindset and making decisions, taking action, and moving ideas from your brain out into the world. Now we're going to continue the conversation about mindset, but we're going to talk more about what is the internal story that is going on in our brain. The reason I wanted to talk about this now is because next month in February, I'm going to be leading the community through 4 lives about storytelling and your impact. And that is going to be super laser focused on the impact story that we tell to other people. But we can't start telling our impact story to other people until we understand our story in our own brain. And we know what's going on with us, and we can then better convey the story we want to tell to everybody else. So first things first, we always start in our community with ourselves and home, right? So we're home base. We're the ones that need to be working on ourselves so that we can show up for other people. So as we work on ourselves, we're better able to show up for other people. Hey, Steph. And it's good to see you guys. Everybody who's joining on Instagram, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. If you want to see the overlays, head over to Facebook or to YouTube or to LinkedIn. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on there too. So the reason that I want to talk about our mindset first is because when you're trying to convey clearly your impact to other people, if you don't have your brain on right and understand what's going on with your business or your nonprofit in your own brain, then it's really extremely hard for you to convey your impact to other people. As you convey your impact to other people, you'll grow in their trust, you'll gain their confidence, they'll be supportive of your work, and they're more likely to follow your brand. Telling your impact story really helps to build brand loyalty. So when we are telling our story to ourselves, one of the things we have to do is really build self-love and self-loyalty, right? So we're building trust within ourselves that we are confident in our vision and that we are going to continue to be able to show up. So I'm excited to have you guys here on LinkedIn with me. I still got Gabe and Ruby and Elena. Thanks for being here. Let's get cracking and let's get right into the topic. I think that's enough intro. When we're going from an employee to being your own boss, this happens for a lot of people that I coach, and it's happened for me too. The first question that I asked myself was, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Oh my gosh. And the first narrative that I had to get over in my brain was this consistent questioning myself, questioning what I was doing and why I was making the choices that I'm making. And it's not because, I want to be, constantly reframing what I'm doing, or I constantly have to be rediscovering myself. It really was that I didn't understand what I was capable of, or I didn't believe what I was capable of. So the narrative in my brain is one of those things that I had to work on. And I had to ask myself, when I say, what am I doing? What am I really questioning? Like, what am I really not sure about in my processes or in what I'm trying to put forward into the world that I'm really questioning? So these were the three things that came up consistently all the time. And they come up consistently for the people that I coach as well. What am I doing? Well, I'm following my passion, right? This is the first answer to this question. I am passionate about the things that I'm doing now. And in my prior roles, I had lost that passion. I had started facing burnout. There was a lot of questioning in my career path where I was going long term. And I didn't really know exactly how to get myself back on track. And I went to a coach. I was reading books, doing all these different things. But what I really wanted my whole entire career was just to help people, right? Like, that's really, really simple. My hobby is literally to help people. This is literally what makes me excited every day. And when I thought about it, I was like, oh, I want to build a business where I can help the helpers. So doing what I want to do and following my passion actually helps other people follow their passion. I unlock doors for other people to do what they want to do that makes them feel fulfilled, that helps them build a legacy, that gives them the power to create social change. But if I don't follow this passion, then I'm leaving it to somebody else to do this mission. And I'm not taking responsibility for this being my calling and this being my passion and this being something that I want to do. So as I would question myself and say, what am I doing and why am I doing this? I would answer myself with, well, you're following your passion and that's okay. Because for so long out of your career, you listened to other people. You allowed other people to tell you what to be passionate about or how to heal or how to help others. And now, in following my own passion, I'm empowered to do that for other people. So as my clients are questioning themselves and saying, what am I doing? What am I doing? Well, I always say, okay, well, we're doing what you're passionate about. We're giving you the space to create a life that will help you thrive and help you build a legacy. And it's okay for you to question yourself during that process. But what we don't want is for you to stop, right? We want you to keep going. Now, the second question, or the second thing I would ask myself was, why was I doing this, right? And one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because when I am working on my purpose, I'm working for me and what I'm passionate about and not someone else, not what someone else is telling me to be passionate about. And it was a really great answer for myself because every time I gave my answer to myself, hey, you're working for your purpose and not someone else's purpose, that freed me up to make decisions, to step up and show up, to come on these lives and put on my makeup and do the things I need to do in order to be a business owner. But I had to do it my way in order for me to be happy about it. Oh, and I love this, Elena. I've been working on my own venture for this very reason. Also wants to help others in ways, and she feels like it's 100% needed. This is in the comments from LinkedIn. This is so super true, right? We work so hard for other people's mission that we're literally willing to die in an office chair for someone else because they're giving us a paycheck. And yet we're not willing to do what we need to do and put ourselves on the stake in order to give ourselves a paycheck, right? So the third answer I gave myself was when I said, what am I doing? This answer was the most important. I said, I'm winning. I'm here like doing what people wish they could do, right? I'm doing what people want to do and are frightened and are fearful to step out and do. So what am I doing? I'm winning. I'm winning at my own game with my own rules. And I got this, right? This is my mission and I'm doing it the way I want to do it. And I would always come back to this answer when I'd say, why am I not sleeping in today? Why am I getting up? Why am I, I have all this freedom as an entrepreneur to do what I want. What am I doing? I'm waking up so I can win. I'm stepping up and doing my life so that I can win, right? I'm currently in the position of winning right now. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to question myself while I'm winning. There are definitely times where I have. But the answer to get me back on track was to tell myself, I am winning no matter what because I am following my passion, because I have the freedom to work for my purpose and not someone else's purpose. And to me, that right there is a win, a huge, super huge win. So let's talk about the story of this, right? So we're leading into a month of storytelling, telling your impact story over and over and over again. And the story in our head is so important that sometimes we can't get to making an impact for other people because we're too stuck in our own narratives in our own head. And when you get stuck in a narrative, it's extremely hard to break out of it because these things become our reality, right? We reshape our reality with these stories and narratives that we tell ourselves. And it doesn't mean that you can't break out of it. What it means that in order to break out of it, you have to actually interrupt these thoughts and these narratives. And for me, and for a lot of the people that I serve, these are some really common narratives that come up. The idea that everything is now up to you as being the boss of your own organization. You're your janitor, you're your CFO, you're your COO, you are the executive, you are the program manager, you are everything, right? And the pressure that you feel because everything is up to you comes from the fact that no one is telling you what to do anymore, right? You're having to make the decisions yourselves. And Ruby said exactly, our perception creates our reality. So this is really, really true because when you perceive that everything is up to you, but the job is too big or there's too many jobs, then the first thing you do is get scared and believe you're going to fail at doing all the jobs, right? They're like, oh no, now I've got to take out the trash and I also have to bill my customer. Like what? So it is up to you, but we have to flip this narrative around. And I'll tell you how we do this in a second. The second one is realizing that the struggle is real. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Entrepreneurship is not easy. There are times when you will have a month where you will make no money. Zero money will come in unless you constantly have leads, you constantly have a pipeline, you're constantly putting yourself out there. But the truth is, the struggle is always going to be there no matter what we do. There are times in our lives when we have struggled in the past. Hey, Amar, good to see you. We've struggled so much in the past and we fail to recognize that we've overcome those struggles and that we've gotten to where we are now. And in order to get to where we are now and to be who we want to be, we had to go through those struggles. We had to go through those times. We had to have those months where zero money was coming in, right? Even if it seems scary in the struggle and you can't see your way out of the struggle, just knowing that it is going to be a struggle and being prepared for that is really, really powerful because you're not snowing yourself over. You're not putting rose-colored glasses on. You're not making it, unattainable for yourself to reach your goals. What you're saying is, I understand that there will be highs and lows, peaks and valleys, times of feast and famine, which we'll talk about in next, but all of the time, yes, this is great. I love this. All of the time, you have to know that there is something more coming, right? You have to have that growth mindset and the belief that you're going to get through those times of struggle. Ruby said, thankfully, ignorance is bliss. Otherwise, she might not have walked down the path of entrepreneurship because there's no faster growth than the process, right? So the process, having to go through these struggles, having to read, having to watch other people, having to get coached, these are all parts of the process. And depending on what you do and your actions, there will be times of feast or famine. We cannot control the environment around us all the time. We cannot control real life situations that come up. My grandmother needed someone to take care of her for 3 weeks at the end of her life. I made zero money that month because I was playing hospice nurse to my grandmother in California, right? So I was 110% focused on my family, and that's absolutely okay. But I knew that there would be times later when I would be able to benefit from that experience. And there absolutely have. I have had so many times to connect with people about that one life experience because they've gone through something too, or they've gone through grief too. And those connections, those human connections, actually ended up bringing me closer to a few of my clients. So having these times of feast or famine and these struggles, it doesn't mean that you're not going to overcome them. It doesn't mean that they won't go away or they won't come back. What it means that you have to be prepared for it and mentally be in the mindset, the executive mindset that we're talking about tonight, to understand that this is possible and that it could happen. But again, like Ruby said, ignorance is bliss because you don't know what it's going to happen, right? So you just have to be prepared for the fact that it will. Now, the other thing that a lot of my clients struggle with is the idea that it's all up to me. And there's this immense pressure that comes around with the idea that I'm everything, right? I'm the business, I'm the face of the business. Not only do I play all the roles, but if I'm out because I have COVID, how does this business keep moving forward, right? And so we have to put these situations in our brain so that we can plan for the fact that we are everything and that we show up, the business shows up, right? When I go out to network and meet people in person, I have to be there physically. I could do it virtually, but if I want to make some really good connections, I probably got to get out of my house and go talk to some people. So I am everything in my business, and I understand that. But I also understand that there will be a time when I will have a team and I will be the leader of everything, right? So bring this back to your brain. Even if you're a solopreneur and right now you're not big enough to have a team, the goal is to scale in a sustainable way to where we will no longer be needed to continue the mission. And if we're not needed to continue the mission, then we need to be able to show up as everything now so that we can convert that mission over to something that somebody else can carry for us. And as we do that, as we scale, as we build teams, as we create a legacy, we can stop being everything, right? That pressure will eventually go away. So what you're trying to build is a way for you to get big enough so that the pressure actually gets relieved because you bring on some more folks. And I had a beautiful conversation today with one of the coaches on Clubhouse named Allegra, who's amazing. Shout out to Allegra. And we talked about interns and having interns. And she pushed me today. I'm like, well, why don't you have an intern? And I was like, I don't know, because I was like tortured as an intern and I don't think I want an intern. But what she was saying was, think about how you could actually make that experience different for someone else, right? So if I'm able to create everything myself, I'm able to do everything in my business, then I should be able to create an internship spot where people aren't tortured, right? Where people actually have a great experience. So me being everything doesn't have to be pressure. It could be an opportunity. So let's talk about the flip side of all of this, which is reframing, right? This is a tool that we use in psychology, in therapy, all kinds of places, coaching, but reframing your mind is extremely powerful. And it takes a lot of training and meditation and other things that you can use as tools. But what we're really trying to do is take those harmful narratives or those narratives that don't serve us and replace them with new narratives, fresh narratives that are going to be better for us in our development. These are the ones that I've selected to talk about today because these are the ones that map to me back to those issues we were just talking about the harmful narratives that go through our brain. So when we're reframing as social entrepreneurs, as people with our own businesses or nonprofits, when we're reframing our brain, we have to be thinking about what we've just freed up for ourselves. So in the executive mindset, we have the freedom to do. We have the freedom to create. We have the freedom to unleash the creativity within us in the way that we want to explore it. We have the freedom to just be and live and develop the life that you want to live. Now, it may have the peaks and valleys and the whole road to get there, but you still have the freedom to create it because you're the one in charge of your progression. You're in charge of where this goes. Now, to talk about your own freedom with yourself and your brain, sometimes your brain can tell you, oh, but that freedom comes at a cost, right? Like, or you have to pay your own health insurance now, or now you have to do this, or now you have to do that. And you can start getting back into those harmful narratives where it's not that free. That's not that free. You don't have the freedom in the space because you're too busy worrying. So in order to minimize the worry and keep moving forward, leaning into the freedom, leaning into the ability to make change, leaning into the ability to do things differently and do things the way you want to do them is very, very, very important because that's where you empower yourself. That's where you heal yourself. That's where you're able to take all of the things that you've learned and package them up and share them with other people. So the freedom to be your own executive, to have the right mindset, to be successful, it's not something that you can achieve when someone else is telling you what to do, right? So if you're working for someone else or you're an employee of someone else, you don't have all these freedoms to make all these different decisions. Now, the next one is I'm worthy. Time and time again, I've heard particularly people of color, BIPOC entrepreneurs, women of color think about worthiness as something that is not determined from internal, but is from external forces. Someone else tells you when you're in a job that you're worthy of a paycheck that is this much money. And then they tell you every year that you're worthy of a performance review with this number on it. And then they tell you every year that you're worthy of only this much raise, right? When you are in the executive mindset and you are in charge, you're determining your worth. You're paying yourself. You're setting your own rates. You're making sure that you get the things done that you want to get done and take care of yourself at the same time, right? And all of this has to be packaged in a way that you think about that I'm worthy of the life that I want. I'm worthy of having these amazing things. I'm worthy of living a life that looks like my vision board, right? Like these are things that I can achieve and I value them, but also I'm worthy of having them. Now, the last one is I value help because I value help. And hey, Norma, good to see you. I value help is a really big reframing for people, especially if you're a social entrepreneur and you're a solo entrepreneur, because you probably are used to doing everything yourself, like we talked about before. And help almost seems like it's a burden, or it might seem like it's unnecessary. Yeah, right. And Norma's over here giving me hundreds, right? Help might seem like it's more or effort than you would put out if you just did it yourself. And it's like, oh no, now I got to write an SOP and now I got to train somebody and now I need to onboard them and select the right candidate. And oh no, that didn't work. Now I need to go back to the drawing board, right? And so help can seem like a liability sometimes. But if you reframe it and think about all the other roles you've had in your life, you probably have achieved what you've achieved by having help, right? I had a ton of help. I had a ton of mentors. I had some really, really good mentors, in fact. And they helped me unlock doors, open opportunities. They were there for me when I was having a meltdown, right? There are so many reasons why having help is important. I've been to therapy. I've had a therapist. Like there's a lot of reasons why help will assist us in being a better person, being the fuller version of ourselves. So reframing your brain to think about the idea that you value help. You may not feel like you need help, but you see the value in having help. And when you have help, you understand more about yourself and your freedom of what you can do and what you can delegate to others, right? So I'm definitely leaning into this idea of Wendy having an intern, by the way, guys. So just heads up, if y'all know a good college student who needs to get some experience, I might be opening an internship. Now, in May of last year, so this is May of 2022, I had a blog post that I put out that was called Employee to Boss. And now, if you follow the Social Impact Level Up podcast, you also know that this is a podcast episode where we had some amazing speakers talking about their journey between self-employment and going back to being somebody else's employee. There was at least 8 or 9 really good lessons in this blog post that I took from this conversation. But these are the ones that I think are the best lessons to share today. So having a growth mindset. I think for growth is spelled wrong on my slides, by the way. I like totally transposed the O and the W. So if you go onto YouTube, you'll see it. But anyway, having a growth mindset. This is supposed to say growth mindset, y'all. Lesson number 1 is ask yourself, is the grass really greener, right? So is the grass really greener on the other side? Meaning, if I move from employee to self-employed, is that really going to give me what I want? And is that going to give me the freedom and the passion and all the other things we talked about? Is it going to give me that or not, right? Because there's a chance that staying employed by someone else is actually better. Now, for some of us who've experienced job loss, which I also wanted to talk about today in our live, you may not be feeling very worthy right now. When you lose your job, it's a really, really tragic kind of experience in your career. And you can sit in that tragedy and continue to feel like something has been done to you. But you can also think about it as an opportunity to explore grass that might be greener, right? You might be able to now explore something that you didn't have the courage to do because you were tied to the job that you had before. Now, the grass isn't always greener for everybody, but if you decide to explore entrepreneurship and you like it, you're going to have to get comfortable with the idea that things are not comfortable. Things are very not comfortable as an entrepreneur sometimes. So, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable as an entrepreneur is really extremely important. Hey, Kaylani. And it's always going to be comfortable sometimes and uncomfortable other times. And like I said before, there's peaks and valleys, and there's no way to know when things are coming or going. But if you understand that there are going to be comfortable and uncomfortable times, you can mentally have the mindset to be prepared for that. Now, lesson number 3, being the boss lets me help who I want to help, how I want to help them. This was so powerful for me when I unlocked this truth, when I understood that I could help people on my terms, the way that I wanted to create programs with the things that I wanted to do. I could help the types of organizations I wanted to help and not anybody else's dictated mandate to me. Woo! Ruby's like new level, new devil. So true. It was so, so big when I unlocked this truth, because I always wanted to people please, right? Like in my former roles, I always wanted to be what everybody else thought I should be, or what I wanted to perform at everybody else's standards. And I would put my standards higher than everybody else's standards because I wanted to be above their standards, right? Now, I realize that I can take a step back if I feel like it. I can take a day off if I feel like it. I can help people when I want to help them. If I feel like getting up at 3 a.m. and working in the middle of the night, I can do that. No one's going to tell me I have to work between 8 and 9 p.m. or 8 to 5 p.m., right? That's not how this works. So as an entrepreneur, I have, oh, hey, Faustinia, good to see you. I have the ability to make these decisions for myself. And it's super duper helpful to me to soothe for me in my soul that I am actually helping people. Because before, when I worked in the government, I couldn't see all the people that I helped, right? I was so high up that I would just get these reports and they would say, oh, you helped thousands of people this month. And I'm like, oh, hey, all my girls are here. I love it. Shay's here too. Hey, everybody. But I just would get these reports with like, you helped, 1,000 kids get mental health services this month. And I'm like, okay, 1,000 kids, that's cool. And then I look for the next month and it's like, you helped 2,000 kids. And I'm like, great, we're growing, we're helping more kids. Have I ever seen any of these children that I've helped get mental health services? A handful on a site visit one time, maybe in Nevada. But who do I see every day now? I see the people that I help. In fact, the people that I talk to even today, these ladies right here, these are people that I just literally was talking to hours ago, and they're here on the live, right? I see the people that I help now. This makes a big difference for my morale, for my ability to show up, because now I can physically talk to the individual people that I'm helping and know that they are going to go help more people. And that exponential growth is a result of me being there to help them. Now, lesson number 4 is something that people struggle with a lot. This is taking consistent, inspired action, right? Consistent, inspired action. What does that mean? It means you show up consistently and you do what your intuition has inspired you to do, and you actually act. You take the action. You don't sit on the information. You don't get a little inkling and then sit back and be like, that sounds a little difficult. That sounds a little rough. I'm going to decide not to do that today. You step up and explore. And when you explore, if the ideas are sound, if the opportunity is there, if your intuition guides you to, you take action. And it's really, really simple when you trust yourself. But the less you trust yourself, the more difficult taking consistent, inspired action is. All right, so I'm going to say that again. When you don't trust yourself, it's difficult to show up and take consistent, inspired action. But the more that you take consistent, inspired action and the more that you see your results, the easier it gets for you to show up. So the first step is just start kind of taking the actions, right? Keep going, keep going. Like Ruby said, like, we don't know what's going ahead, but if we don't fear the unknown and we know that things are going to be inconsistent and we know that they're going to be uncontrollable, let's just still keep going and showing up and taking the action. And let's see what happens, right? Now, the fifth one is just a word of caution, you may experience turbulence in your salary. And I wanted to bring this lesson up because some of us may go from being an entrepreneur back to being an employee, and then back to being an entrepreneur, and then back to being an employee, or just choose one and stay there. There's no wrong way, but if you have a difference in salary and then you go back to somebody else's determination of your worth, they may not think that you were worth as much when you were an entrepreneur, or they may have seen a little bit of a dip in your salary or a gap in your work history. And suddenly they're like, oh, we're going to offer you $10,000 less than your last position, right? This has come up multiple times in the podcast episode that we talked about. People, when they moved back and forth between employee and being an employee and being employed by themselves, they did notice that there was sometimes a little bit of fluctuation in how much people thought they were worth and what their salary was going to be. And you know what? If you're prepared for that and you understand that, there are ways to navigate. And we'll talk about one of them in a minute, but there are ways to navigate it. So even if you do have people offering you less money than you used to make before you went to go be an entrepreneur, there are definitely things you can do to try to get back to what you know you're worth. And of course, again, we don't want people to, and Ruby said bias. There is a really big bias. And I think there is a big bias against entrepreneurship because people don't tell you this, but when you start saying, oh yeah, I'm working for myself right now, or I own my own company, I own my own business, I'm an entrepreneur, people look at you like, you're a what? I don't understand what that means. So the bias against entrepreneurship is really interesting because a lot of people don't understand that it takes a lot to be a successful entrepreneur. And that probably means that, your worth is actually probably higher after you explore entrepreneurship than it was when you left that job that you had before. And then Ruby said it's definitely about framing. Absolutely. This is all about how we frame everything, whether it's your internal story or how you share your internal story with people who are talking to you, asking you questions, your family who's like, what the hell are you doing over there? All of this stuff, right? I'm sure some of you guys on the live, you ought to like drop in the comments if you've had the family going, excuse me, do you have a job? Like, are you just being jobless right now and like hanging out online? Like, what are you doing? So yes, I have experienced those questions as well. It was always a good time to have that conversation. But luckily I have a lot of really supportive people. So I won't say that it hasn't been great. All y'all have been super supportive. So the last thing that I wanted to finish up with is a story, which a lot of you guys have heard this story recently because I've been telling this story again, talking about storytelling for February. I have been talking about this story because I'm getting ready to show how you can use one story a bunch of different ways. Ruby said she still has a sister that sends her job opportunities. Yes, girl, I forgot your sister with the lovely job opportunities. It's okay. My sister is super hello supportive also. But by the way, shout out to my sister. This is something that's interesting to me. When people stopped sending me job opportunities and they started sending me leads, I was like, again, I met a milestone. I have retrained my network to know, don't send me job opportunities. I'm not going to look at them. But if you send me a lead for someone to help, I will most definitely reach out today. Right? I will talk to your person as soon as I can get them in my schedule. So I had to retrain my network to be like, yo, guys, no more job opportunities, not for me. But if you know someone who needs help, I can help them. And that is my job, right? That is my role now. So I appreciate that. Ruby and her sister with the job opportunities. That just kills me. All right. So as I was saying before, February, we're going to be talking all about storytelling. We'll be on a bunch of these lives. I have a challenge going for 30 days where we're practicing talking about your impact story. So one of the stories I wanted to talk about that made the biggest impact on my life is the story of how I got stuck in a latrine, in a pit latrine, which is a porta potty, but not so organized, in the middle of Lake Victoria in Uganda. And I put it out in my newsletter. I put this story out in small reels and short videos. And so you might have heard this story. But the way it goes is I was in Uganda. A lot of people don't know the full story about why I was in Uganda, so I probably should backtrack for a second. When I was in grad school at 25, I was at Columbia School of Social Work, and my advisor challenged me that I wasn't thinking big enough. Now, of course, when anybody challenges me that I'm not thinking big enough, I'm always like, okay, that's it. I'm going to go do the biggest thing I could possibly do right now. Just watch. And so she said, hey, you want to go to Belize to study abroad, but that's like, what impact are you going to make in Belize? You probably could make a bigger impact. And I was like, okay. So she challenged me to talk to one of my Ugandan professors, Dr. Fred Sobamala, shout out to Fred. And he arranged for me to go stay in a Catholic parish in Uganda for 6 months. There was no power and no water, but that's like a whole other story. And so I got used to, living in the middle of an African village in a trading center, really. So it's like a step up from a village. And having no power, no water, and living for 6 months, sleeping on essentially a wooden plank of a bed. And so vacation was kind of an interesting concept at that time, but I took a vacation to the middle of the Lake Victoria. The middle of Lake Victoria has these small islands called the Sese Islands, right? And the Sese Islands are this little tiny chain of islands where there's like illegal logging and all these things going on. But it's a fishing island, right? People just fish in in Lake Victoria, and then they, consume what they farm, and they consume what they fish, and they kind of sustain themselves in this little community. And every so often, some folks go to visit. So I hop on the back of this little tiny Datsun truck it's filled. I mean, you guys, this Datsun truck, I should release a picture of this tomorrow. In fact, if you guys follow me, I'll put a picture out tomorrow on social media. This Datsun truck was filled with all the types of food you could possibly think of: bananas, sorghum, like flour, like sacks of everything. There were chickens. There was at least the small little truck in the bed. There was at least maybe 12, 15 people. There was 3 people sitting on top of the cabin. There was about 5 people inside of the cabin, right? So this truck is loaded down. We go down the dirt road. So here we are going down the dirt road with all the people. I'm literally, so if this is the bed of the truck, my feet are like on the side of the truck, and I'm holding on for dear life. I'm sitting on top of a pile of goods, right? There's mattresses, like there's all kinds of stuff in this truck. So we finally get to the Sese Islands. I get to my camp. I camp my tent, I'm hanging out with my friends. It's a good time. And we go on some hikes, we do some things. But then in the evening, everybody just kind of hangs out and parties, right? Everybody just like hangs out. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I got to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and there is it's wooden walls, but they're like planks of wood. So it's like planks of wood on 3 sides and a door. And they're really tall, and it goes almost all the way to the floor. There's like about, half a foot. So people can't like sneak up underneath there when you're using the bathroom, right? So a pit latrine, if you don't know, is just a big hole in the ground where you go to the bathroom. And in this pit latrine, there's nothing in there, right? It's just these walls and the hole, but there is this stick. And the stick is kind of like, let's use my glasses to like show you what this is. So the stick is kind of like a bottom piece and a top piece. It goes like this, and it covers the whole of the pit latrine. So I'm in the bathroom, boop, take the thing out, do my business. And then I go to get out, and I can't get out. Like I'm literally stuck in this pit latrine. And I'm so stuck in this pit latrine. Like I try to climb over. I don't have the ability to climb over. Like it's way too high for me to reach. I'm 5 feet tall. I couldn't go under, because going under, I wouldn't fit underneath. So I'm like stuck in this pit latrine, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't want to live my life in the middle of Africa, in the middle of Lake Victoria, in a toilet. This is not how I want to die. But I couldn't get anybody to hear me yelling from the camp. So I'm yelling and yelling my head off, trying to get people to hear me. Nobody hears me. so finally I look around and I said, okay, I remember from psychology in undergrad that you always have the solution. Like you always have the solution to your problem. If you think that you don't have the solution, you're probably missing something that you can use as a solution, but you're just thinking about it in a very traditional way. If you unlock that ability to think in a non-traditional way, you'll find the solution. And it's probably right in front of you in your environment, right? So I was like, okay, Wendy, you're the solution. What's going on here? So there I am with this little guy that looks like this. And I realized, oh, this is my solution. This right here, this is my solution. I grab this thing and I kind of like chuck it over the top of the wall of the pit latrine, and I smack the lock on the outside. So what had happened was when I came into the latrine, I closed the door. And when I closed the wooden door, there's two latches, one on the inside and one on the outside, right? The one on the inside prevents anybody from going in. The other one prevents the door from blowing open when no one's in there. So the one on the outside had gotten moved just barely where it trapped me in. So I grabbed this thing and grabbed my stick, popped it over the top, knocked the lock off, and I jump out. And I'm like, oh, ta-da! I'm free. I'm free again, world. I can live. I don't live in a pit latrine. It was great. It was like a freeing moment. And then I realized like 2 seconds later, somebody walked up to go to the bathroom. They totally would have freed me. Like they would have gotten me out. So the reason I'm telling you this story again, because this is a story I've told a couple times recently on social media, is because you always have the solution. You might be thinking in a very traditional fashion. You might be thinking in your old employee mindset. You might not be thinking in your badass social entrepreneur, I own this mindset. And you might be thinking, okay, I need to look for external solutions to my problems. But really, what you need is an internal solution that you've developed that is yours and is going to work for you. And it may not work for everybody else, but it's going to work for you because you developed it, right? Thanks, Ruby. Ruby's got a great story. Girl, I literally thought I was going to live in that pit latrine, let me tell you. So a couple of the things that, actually, I'm going to drink some tea really quickly. This is my my You Rock mug that one of my former staff bought me. That I super duper appreciate, by the way, because anytime I need an uplift, I'm always like, let me get my You Rock mug out and let me wear my I Got This shirt. And now we're in the right mindset. So so here's a couple things from the podcast episode that I wanted to cover as well as closing pieces, because I want to make sure that we get going. I've already been here for like 45 minutes. So yes, you're the solution. External solutions are not sustainable, right? So external solutions, again, are things that are not going to be sustainable for you. Hey, Dimple, good to see you. And there's a couple of things in this that I wanted to talk about. So we're talking about executive mindset. If you guys are just joining us on Instagram or anywhere else, we're talking about moving from employee to employer mindset and how you make that transition gracefully. So there is a blog post. I'll drop it into the comments for these different posts so you can see the blog post that I'm talking about where all of these points are from. So you are the solution. External solutions are not sustainable, but you can decide how you want to be your own solution. So one of the pieces of wisdom in this podcast episode that was brilliant was one of my friends, Doc Rico. He said, are you a hunter or are you a gatherer? And what he meant by that was some people in business, they're like a lion. They go out and get it. They get their kill and then they go to sleep. They hang out, they chill, they rest. They don't keep foraging. But then there's some of us who are little foragers. Hey, how are you? Sometimes there's some of us like me. I'm a forager, man. I'm going to go out here every day and get what I need to get. And I'm going to come and I'm going to hoard my little leads. I'm going to hoard my little clients. And I'm going to use all of my power to connect with them and talk to them and all of those things. I'm not a hunter. I am not go out and get massive amounts of business and then just chill out for 6 months. Maybe one day I will be. But right now I'm in gatherer mode. And I am okay being in gatherer mode, because let me tell you, gatherer mode seems to be picking up pretty damn quickly to where I won't even be able to rest until I tell everybody, hey, chill out. So you have to decide where you're at in your process. Are you in hunter mode or are you in gatherer mode? And neither one is bad. They're just different in how they operate. And as an entrepreneur, as an executive, you can decide when you want to turn on which, right? So think about that right now. Are you in hunter mode or are you in gatherer mode? And go ahead and drop them in the chat if you think you're in one of those, or if you're in a completely different place and you're operating in a completely different way, say that too. Yeah, don't you love that? I love that. I thought it was brilliant. I'm telling you, this podcast episode was so juicy. It was so good. So the next one that we talked about was you get what you. Oh yeah, Ruby said she's a forager too. I'm like, yes, I am a gatherer, man, y'all. I'm over here just like, let me be the places, and osmosis, I will bring the people to me. But if I had to go out and rally and get a bunch of leads at one time, and then I'd just go hang out and somewhere on the beach, like I could be okay with that lifestyle too, right? Yeah, and entrepreneurship is a 24/7 job for sure. But there are people who operate it different, and that's absolutely okay. We each need to know what works for us, right? Being our own solution means that we need to be hyper aware of what is working for us right now in the phase of our journey that we are in. And it doesn't mean compare yourself to somebody else's phase. It doesn't mean compare yourself to somebody else's method. It means be your own solution and be empowered to understand where you are in the process. All right, so next one is you get what you negotiate, right? So when they said this, I was like, oh my gosh. And Ruby, who's here with us on the live, she is fantastic. She leads with like a bunch of other people, the Mujeres de Hace cohorts that happened virtually in the last couple of years. She's been a leader in that. And we talk about negotiation in that process. It's a leadership development program for Latinas. And we talk about negotiation because it is so important that you negotiate your value and you understand what your value is. Because if you're the determiner of your value as the social entrepreneur in charge of your life and your destiny, then you're possibly going to under negotiate yourself if you're not valuing yourself correctly. So you are the power to negotiate up. You're the person who determines your pricing. You're the person who determines when you pitch someone what you tell them your pricing is. You're the person who puts that price on the website. There's nobody over here telling you you could only charge $3.99. No, this is you. This is you in your solution, right? So you get what you negotiate, and that is super duper important. The last one is what have you done to make it happen, boss? Right? Telling yourself, I am the boss. But what have I done to make this dream happen? What have I done to make sure that this is successful? What am I doing right now to show up and be the boss? Because whatever action that is, if it's working, I need to figure it out and keep doing it, right? I need to keep showing up as my own solution. So what have you done to make it happen? Check in with yourself, do your reflections, do your journaling, do your meditation, all of the stuff that helps you understand that you are taking action, you are taking the inspired action, but also understand what is working of those actions and how you can continue to get the outcomes you want because the things that you're doing are actually working. Right? So this is today's live, and I hope that you guys got a lot of value out of it. I'm happy to take questions for everybody who's here. If you have questions, drop them in the chat on Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're at. And just think about the stuff that I shared today, because moving from the mindset of something being done to you or something being restricted or something being done someone else's way, moving from that into the executive mindset where it's like, I have the power and I am empowered to be my own solution. It is not an overnight thing. It does not take 2 seconds for you to wake up and be like, I'm my own boss. I want to boss up and I'm going to do all the things I ever wanted and it's going to be awesome. That is not how it works. It is an iterative process where you have to constantly be reframing and retraining your mindset and your internal story, your internal dialogue. What you tell yourself matters, and you can be extremely harmful to yourself or you can be extremely helpful to yourself. And the choice is yours, right? The choice is really, because it is all you can decide when to stop being harmful to yourself and when to start being helpful to yourself. It's all up to you, baby. So this is the message for this live. We're here to talk about stories. I told you one of my favorite stories today, so I hope you guys enjoyed my pit latrine story, which I've been telling everybody on social media. But I also just wanted you guys to know the challenge is coming up next month. You're more than welcome to join it. I've got links everywhere for it. And it's really going to be a fun time thinking about how we take these narratives and these stories from our head in our life and use them to show the impact that we've made. And I'll even digest it for you here. As I was telling you the story of the pit latrine, although it was really funny, what are some things you learned about me as a person? You learned, one, I do amazing things that I'm not scared to go all the way across the world with 100 pounds of luggage by myself, right? You learned, two, that I actually worked in Uganda and lived in a Catholic village. And what was I doing there? I made you curious with my story, right? I didn't tell you what I was doing there, but I made you curious about what I was doing there. And then I also offered you a glimpse into an incredibly important part of my life where there was a transformational moment that has allowed me to help other people through my lived experience, right? And this is something that's super important for those of us who are sharing our lived experience online. Your lived experience is so powerful and so important, and it can heal and help other people. So you have to keep sharing it. So as I'm telling this story and I'm showing you guys storytelling, the other thing that I'm doing is really unlocking some future doors for future conversations, right? For people to ask questions, to get closer to what my life has been like before y'all met me on wherever you met me at. And so I love this. And so last comment we'll bring up from Ruby. She said, what I love about this conversation is that you take the executive mindset into any role, and you can be self-employed or work within an organization. The principles are the same. Absolutely. These things apply anywhere you go. They absolutely do. I know that for me, I don't know when I will be back in an organization or if it'll just be me in my own organization, but I'm absolutely going to take all of these things and apply them everywhere that I go. And I apply them in all my coaching and all my programs as well. So thanks for being here tonight, everybody. Thank you to Ruby and all of the lovely people who've been commenting. It's been great to have you guys. Thanks for all my friends who came through on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I'm always going to be here to support you guys. So happy to come to your lives as well as you have all your events. I will absolutely be there. And just keep in touch and let me know what's going on with you. I will drop into all of the videos the link for the blog post, and I'll drop the link for the challenge. So if anybody's interested in either one of those, you can join up. The challenge, like I said, is 30 days. We're not doing 30 days of content. We are just going to be talking about your impact story. There's weekly homework, weekly lives, and weekly videos that help you get through the whole 30 days of figuring out what is your impact story and how do you tell it for different purposes. So I'm really excited to be bringing this to the community, and I hope that some of you guys will join me in those lives as well. Even if you don't hop into the challenge, you're more than welcome to join me for the lives and just come and discuss whatever we're going to be talking about for the whole next month. So every Monday night in February, we are going to be here at the same time. So make sure that you put on your calendar and you join me back for one of those lives. All right, everyone, hugs and kisses, much love and blessings to the entire Social Impact Level Up community. And I hope that you guys found a lot of value in this conversation tonight. All right, y'all, we're going to go out with our Social Impact Level Up song, which y'all. All right, everybody, have a good night. Good to see you guys.